The huge 2026 World Cup problem. Americans aren't talking about. Here is a number that should be in every conversation about the 2026 World Cup in the United States, and isn't. 44%. That is the share of Americans who, when surveyed this month by Statista, said they do not trust FIFA to manage transparency and fairness at this tournament. Not a fringe opinion. Not an overseas audience that has complicated feelings about the host country. Americans. Nearly half of the domestic audience this tournament is supposed to win over, saying openly that they don't trust the organization running it. That number exists for a reason. And that reason is the problem Americans aren't talking about loudly enough. The conversation in the United States about this World Cup has been largely celebratory. Football is growing. The national team is developing. The stadiums are world-class. 32 years since 1994, the most attended World Cup in history, and the sport is finally back on home soil. The domestic narrative is one of arrival, of legitimacy, of American football culture finally getting its moment, and that narrative is true, as far as it goes, but here's what it's not saying. The World Cup came back to the United States at the worst possible moment for ordinary American football fans to actually attend it, and the organization that brought it here is now under formal law enforcement investigation in the host state for how it sold the tickets. Let's start with the thing that's been building for months, and that broke into public view this week in a very specific way. Timothy Weah is a midfielder for the United States men's national team. He plays at Juventus. He is one of the most recognized names in American football. And this week he said publicly what thousands of his compatriots have been saying in comment sections and supporter group chats for months. He said the tickets for this World Cup are too expensive. His own tournament, his own home country, too expensive. His manager, Mauricio Pochettino, dismissed the concern publicly. He said West should focus on football, not ticket prices. That response produced a backlash from American fans that was swift and genuine, because Pochettino's dismissal, however understandable, from a coaching perspective, landed at the same moment that the New York and New Jersey attorneys general were issuing subpoenas to FIFA for its ticketing practices. The same moment that fans across 11 American cities were discovering that between October 2025 and April 2026, FIFA had raised ticket prices for over 90 of the 104 matches by an average of 34%. Category 1 buyers being assigned to Category 2 seats, fans waiting in digital queues for hours, paying over $500, receiving confirmation emails showing them somewhere completely different. FIFA defending all of it by saying it applied market rates, Infantino's exact phrase. Market rates. For a World Cup, in a country where the national team player is saying it's too expensive, here is what makes this specifically an American problem, not just a global one. The 1994 World Cup, the one Americans look back on as the gold standard, the most attended tournament in history, had average ticket prices equivalent to roughly $35 to $50 in today's money. Working-class fans in New Jersey and Dallas and Los Angeles and Boston went to those games. They didn't need to save for 6 months. They didn't need to navigate a dynamic pricing algorithm. They bought a ticket. They showed up. They fell in love with the sport. That experience, the one that planted football in American soil 32 years ago and grew the game into what it is today, is not available at the 2026 World Cup. The cheapest final ticket is over $4,000. The cheapest group stage ticket in general sale is $140, and that's after a 24% monthly price drop in the resale market. For a family of 4 in an American city, attending a single group stage match costs more than a week's wages for a significant portion of the population. The growth of football in America, the thing this tournament was supposed to celebrate and accelerate, was built by immigrant communities, by youth programs, by parents driving their kids to Saturday morning games, by people for whom the sport connected them to somewhere far away and something deeply personal. Many of those people are not going to the 2026 World Cup, not because they don't want to, because they've been priced out of it. The USMNT's most diverse, most passionate fan communities live in the cities hosting this tournament: Los Angeles, Houston, Miami, New York. And a survey published this week found that Americans are not particularly enthusiastic about attending the event, even compared to overseas visitors. That is a remarkable finding. The host nation's own fans are less likely to attend than international visitors. That tells you something specific about how the pricing, the access logistics, and the overall commercial design of this tournament has landed with the domestic audience it was supposed to inspire. Now, here is the problem that is genuinely not being discussed at all in the American sports media. The CSIS, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, one of Washington's most respected policy institutions, published a report 3 days ago on the terrorist threat to the 2026 World Cup. Its findings are specific and documented anti-government violence in the United States surged in 2025, much of it connected to immigration enforcement. The report identified that the visible deployment of armed state, local, and federal personnel around tournament venues could channel existing grievances toward World Cup targets. Partisan extremism has climbed steadily since 2016 and shows no signs of abating. And then the report noted something that has received almost no coverage in American sports media. It described FIFA's visible alignment with the current administration, the White House appearances, the Peace Prize, as creating a specific perception risk. That some potential attackers may perceive the tournament as a politically branded target. That is not a fringe concern. That is the Center for Strategic and International Studies saying it in a published report 3 days ago. The security infrastructure around this tournament is the most extensive ever deployed at a sporting event. Over $625 million in federal security funding. Over 100,000 security personnel in Mexico alone. FAA drone bands covering 3 nautical miles around every stadium on every match day. Security perimeters that have eliminated all stadium parking and turned surrounding streets into controlled zones. All of that security apparatus exists because the threat assessment is real. And the American sports media, the same media that is running daily preview features about USMNT's group stage, fixtures, and Pochettino's formation choices, has almost entirely avoided discussing what that threat assessment actually says. Here is the tension at the heart of the American conversation about this World Cup. The football argument is real, and it's good. The sport has genuinely grown in the United States since 1994. The current USMNT squad, Pulisic, Balogun, McKennie, Reyna, Turner, is the most talented in American history. Hosting a World Cup accelerates development, drives infrastructure investment, grows the youth game, and creates the kind of national moment that changes a sport's cultural status permanently. These are legitimate reasons to be excited, but the excitement is being marketed to an audience that is simultaneously being told by law enforcement officials that FIFA misled them about their seats. By attorneys general that FIFA's pricing practices are under investigation for potential violations of consumer protection law. By Amnesty International that the tournament is a human rights emergency. By their own national team player that the tickets cost too much. 44% of Americans don't trust FIFA to manage this tournament fairly. Not after watching the news. Not after being told what to think by overseas critics. After living in the host country, watching the build-up, and drawing their own conclusions. That trust deficit is the huge problem Americans aren't talking about loudly enough. Because it matters beyond this tournament. The 2028 Olympics are coming to Los Angeles. The 2030 World Cup is on the horizon. The United States is becoming one of the world's permanent homes for mega events. How those events are managed, who they benefit, and whether the communities hosting them feel that they were treated fairly. Those questions are being answered right now, in 2026 in real time. The answer so far is, not well enough. The football can still be transformative. The matches can still produce the moments that grow the game for another generation. 12 days from now, when the opening whistle blows at the Azteca and the tournament begins for real, some of what we've talked about today will be overwhelmed by the joy and color and drama of the competition itself. But the 44% who said they don't trust FIFA, they're watching. They're in the stadiums, if they could afford to get there. They're watching from home if they couldn't. And what they learn about how this tournament was run, not on the pitch, but in the offices and the pricing model, in the security briefings in the Attorney General's evidence room will shape how they think about the next one. The World Cup is back in America. The sport deserves that. The fans deserve that. What they got instead was something more complicated, and they haven't finished talking about it yet.